The day my wife called me useless was the same day I signed a deal worth more than her entire family had ever dreamed of. But she didn't know that. And the man sitting across from her at that restaurant, laughing, touching her hand like I didn't exist. He didn't know either. I stood there, just a few feet away, holding a worn-out envelope that carried the weight of 100 acres of land, and the truth that was about to destroy everything they thought they knew about me. Before I tell you what happened next, I want to know, where are you watching from today? Drop your country in the comments. I read them all. And if you love powerful stories of betrayal, hidden power, and revenge, make sure you subscribe to Crowned Tales. You don't want to miss what's coming. Now listen carefully, because this story isn't just about losing everything. It's about what happens when the man everyone underestimates. Stop staying silent. My name is Daniel Eakin. 3 years ago, I was a nobody. Or at least, that's what everyone thought. I lived in a small, aging apartment on the outskirts of the city. The walls had cracks, the lights flickered, and the water heater worked only when it felt like it. But I never complained, because every morning before sunrise, I left that apartment with one goal: to build something real, something lasting, something no one could take from me. You see, I wasn't lazy. I wasn't broke in mindset. I was building quietly, patiently, relentlessly. But my wife, Vanessa, she didn't see it that way. To her, I was a failure. Vanessa came from a family that worshipped appearances. Her father owned a chain of mid-level businesses. Her mother was obsessed with status. And her younger brother, well, he never missed a chance to remind me I wasn't good enough to marry into their family. At first, Vanessa wasn't like them. When we met, she loved my ambition. She used to sit next to me at night while I worked on land proposals, sketching development ideas on cheap notebooks. "You're going to be something big one day," she'd say, resting her head on my shoulder. Back then, I believed her. Back then, she believed in me. But belief has an expiration date when results don't come fast enough. And mine didn't. At least, not where she could see them. Because while she judged me based on my worn-out shoes and empty bank account, I was negotiating something far bigger behind the scenes. Something risky. Something that could either ruin me completely or make me unstoppable. It started with a piece of land nobody wanted. 10 acres. Dry. Unattractive. Forgotten. Located just outside a growing development zone. Everyone laughed at it. Too far from the city. No water access. No immediate value. Even investors turned their backs on it. But I saw something different. I saw potential. I saw where the city was heading. I saw what it could become in 5 years. So I made a decision that would change my life. I went all in. I used every connection I had, every favor I could call in, every sleepless night to draft proposals, projections, development plans. I got rejected more times than I can count. Doors slammed in my face. People laughed. Some even called me delusional. But I didn't stop, because I knew something they didn't. The government had already approved a future highway project, one that would run dangerously close to that worthless land. And when that happened, that land wouldn't just be valuable. It would be priceless, but none of that mattered at home. Because at home, I was still the man who couldn't afford a better life. "Daniel, I'm tired," Vanessa said one evening, dropping her bag on the table. "I can't keep living like this." I looked up from my laptop. "Like what?" She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Like I'm married to someone who has no direction." No direction. The words hit harder than I expected. "I'm working on something," I said quietly. "You're always working on something, Daniel. But nothing ever changes." I wanted to tell her. I wanted to show her the contracts, the maps, the emails that proved everything was about to shift. But something stopped me. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was the fear that if it failed, I'd look even worse. So I stayed silent, and that silence slowly destroyed us. Weeks turned into months. Vanessa became colder, distant. Her late nights became more frequent. Her phone was always locked. Her laughter, it disappeared around me, but I started hearing it again when she stepped into another room. At first, I ignored it. I told myself I was overthinking. Until one night, everything changed. It was past midnight when her phone lit up on the table. She was in the shower. I wasn't the type to snoop, but something about that moment, something in my gut told me to look. So I did. One message. That's all it took. I miss you already. Tonight was perfect. My chest tightened. I scrolled up. Photos, messages, plans. And then I saw his name? Marcus. I knew Marcus. Everyone did. Marcus Tabe. Rich. Confident. The kind of man Vanessa's family always compared me to. Why can't you be more like Marcus? Now I knew why. I didn't confront her that night. I didn't shout. Didn't break anything. I just sat there, staring at the screen, feeling something inside me shift. Not break. Shift. Because in that moment, I realized something important. I had been fighting to prove myself to the wrong person. The next morning, Vanessa acted like nothing happened. She made coffee, scrolled through her phone, avoided my eyes. "Daniel, we need to talk," she finally said. I nodded. "I know." She hesitated, then took a deep breath. "I want a divorce," just like that. No emotion, no hesitation, like she had been waiting to say it. "Why?" I asked, even though I already knew. She laughed softly. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be. We both know this isn't working." "No," I said calmly. "Say it." Her eyes hardened. "I'm tired of being married to someone who has nothing." There it was. The truth. Cold. Sharp. Final. 3 days later, she moved out. And 1 week after that, I got the call. The deal. Approved. Signed. Finalized. I now owned development rights to 100 acres of land that investors were suddenly fighting over. My phone didn't stop ringing. Emails flooded in. Offers. Partnerships. Millions. All within reach. Everything I had worked for. Everything I had sacrificed. It was finally happening. And then I saw her again. It was a high-end restaurant in the city. The kind of place Vanessa used to beg me to take her. But I could never afford. I wasn't supposed to be there that day. I had just come from a meeting, still wearing the same simple clothes she used to complain about. And then I saw them, Vanessa and Marcus, sitting together, laughing, happy, like I never existed. I stood there for a moment, watching, not with anger, not with jealousy, but with clarity. Because for the first time, I understood everything. I walked toward them, slowly, calmly. Vanessa noticed me first. Her smile disappeared instantly. "Daniel?" Marcus turned, looked me up and down, smirked. Well, if it isn't the man who couldn't keep up. I didn't respond. I simply placed the envelope on the table. Vanessa frowned. "What is this?" I looked her straight in the eyes. "This," I said quietly, "is everything you thought I could never become." She hesitated, then reached for it. Marcus leaned back, amused. "Go on," he said. "Let's see what our dreamer has been working on." Vanessa opened the envelope. Her eyes scanned the documents, and then her expression changed. Confusion, shock, disbelief. Her hands started shaking. "What? What is this?" she whispered. I didn't answer. Marcus leaned forward, snatching one of the papers. His smirk slowly faded. "Wait," he muttered. This can't be real." I finally spoke. "It is." Silence, heavy, uncomfortable, unavoidable. Vanessa looked up at me, her eyes wide, searching my face like she was seeing me for the first time. You own this?" she asked. I nodded once. "Yes." Her lips parted, but no words came out. Marcus stood up suddenly. "This has to be fake," he snapped. "There's no way you pulled this off." I met his gaze. "You underestimated me," I said calmly. "Both of you did." And then Vanessa said something that changed everything again. She reached for my hand, tears forming in her eyes. "Daniel, I didn't know," she whispered. I made a mistake. I looked at her hand, then at Marcus, then back at her. And in that moment, I realized the truth wasn't just about to hurt them. It was about to destroy them. Because what they still didn't know was that this deal, this land, this power I now held, was connected to something far bigger, something that would make Marcus lose everything, and Vanessa regret the day she ever walked away. I slowly pulled my hand back and leaned closer to her, my voice low, cold, controlled. "You're right," I said. "You made a mistake." I straightened, picked up the envelope, and turned to walk away. But just before I left, I stopped. Without looking back, I said, "And trust me, this is only the beginning." Behind me, I heard Marcus's voice rise, Vanessa calling my name, chairs moving, panic setting in. But I didn't turn around, because for the first time in my life, I wasn't the man being left behind. I was the one walking away. But what they didn't know was that Marcus's empire was built on land that now belonged to me. And in just a few days, everything he owned would come crashing down. Marcus didn't sleep that night. I know that, because I didn't either. But while he lay awake, trying to figure out how everything slipped through his fingers, I was already 3 steps ahead. The truth was simple. Marcus wasn't just rich. He was leveraged. His empire, hotels, plazas, luxury apartments, was built on borrowed power, loans, agreements, land leases, and one critical detail he had overlooked. The land his biggest project depended on was part of the 100 acres I now controlled. 3 days after the restaurant encounter, I sat in a glass office overlooking the very city that once made me feel invisible. The difference now? People were waiting outside, asking for my time. Investors, lawyers, developers, all eager, all respectful, all suddenly aware of who I was. One of my legal advisors, Mr. Nkem, adjusted his glasses and slid a document toward me. "Everything is ready," he said. "Once you sign, the acquisition becomes public, and Marcus Tabe's primary development will be legally frozen." I picked up the pen, but didn't sign immediately. "Walk me through it one more time," I said. He nodded. "The shopping complex Marcus is building. He only owns 60% of the land rights. The remaining 40% falls under your newly acquired property. Without your consent, construction cannot continue." I leaned back slightly. "And his loans?" "Structured around project completion deadlines," he replied. "If the project stalls, he defaults." Default. One word, but it meant everything. Loss of control, loss of credibility, collapse. "Do it," I said. And I signed. Within hours, the news spread, fast, like fire in dry grass. Unknown developer acquires strategic land affecting major projects. Marcus Tabe's expansion at risk. Construction halted pending land dispute. My phone buzzed nonstop. Messages, calls, offers. But one call stood out. Vanessa. I let it ring. Once, twice, 5 times. Then it stopped, only to start again. This time, I answered. "Daniel." Her voice came through, shaky, urgent. "I've been trying to reach you." I noticed. "Is it true?" she asked. "The news, the land." Marcus says a lot of things," I interrupted calmly. Silence, then softer. "Can we meet?" I paused. Not because I was unsure, but because I wanted her to feel that pause, that distance, that shift in power. "Where?" I asked. We met at the same restaurant, same table, but everything else had changed. Vanessa looked different, not physically, but emotionally. The confidence she once carried was gone, replaced by something unfamiliar. Uncertainty, fear, regret. "Daniel," she began, her voice barely steady. "I didn't know things were this serious." I sat across from her. Calm, composed. "You didn't ask." She flinched. I thought you were struggling," she said. "You never told me anything." I held her gaze. "And you never stayed long enough to find out." Her eyes dropped, tears forming. "I made a mistake," she whispered again. I didn't respond immediately. Because this exact moment, was what she thought she wanted. A chance to come back, to fix things, to return to the man she left behind. But that man didn't exist anymore. "Marcus is in trouble, Daniel," she said quickly. "You don't understand how bad it is. Investors are pulling out. His accounts are frozen. I understand perfectly," I said. She looked up, confused. "What do you mean?" I leaned forward slightly. I knew exactly what would happen." Her face went pale. "You planned this?" "No," I said calmly. I prepared for it. Before she could respond, a voice cut in. Enough. Marcus, standing there, tense, angry, desperate. A version of him I had never seen before. He walked up to the table, his eyes locked on me. You think this is funny? He snapped. I didn't react. You've made your point, he continued. Now let's talk like men. Vanessa stood up. Marcus, please. Not now, he said sharply. His attention never left me. What do you want? He asked. There it was, the question every powerful man asks, when he realizes he's no longer in control. I stood up slowly, looked him in the eye, and said something he wasn't expecting. Nothing. He frowned. Don't play games. I'm not, I replied. I don't want anything from you. That's impossible, he said. You're blocking a multi-million project. I tilted my head slightly, and his jaw tightened. You'll lose too, he said. Delays hurt everyone. I smiled faintly. Not me. Silence, heavy. Again. But this time, it wasn't uncertainty. It was realization. Marcus was starting to understand. He wasn't negotiating from a position of strength anymore. He was reacting, and I was controlling the pace. I can buy you out, he said finally. Name your price. Vanessa looked between us, hope flickering in her eyes. But I shook my head. It's not for sale. Everything is for sale, Marcus snapped. Not this. He stepped closer, lowered his voice. You're making a mistake. I met his stare. No, I said quietly. You did. Vanessa grabbed my arm. Daniel, please. This is getting out of hand. I gently removed her hand. It already is. Then I reached into my folder and pulled out one final document. I placed it on the table, between us. Marcus hesitated, then picked it up. His eyes scanned the page, and for the first time since I met him, he looked afraid. What is this? Vanessa asked. Marcus didn't answer, because he couldn't. So I did. It's a notice, I said calmly. Effective immediately. Your project is terminated. Vanessa gasped. Marcus's hands clenched the paper. You can't do this, he said, but his voice lacked conviction. I already did. Everything unraveled after that. Faster than anyone expected. Marcus's investors pulled out completely. Banks called in their loans. Construction stopped. Lawsuits followed. Within weeks, the man who once looked down on me was fighting to hold on to scraps of what he had left. And Vanessa? She tried. She called. Texted? Showed up unannounced. Apologies. Tears. Promises. I didn't see your worth before, she said one evening, standing outside my office. But I see it now. I looked at her. Really looked at her. And for the first time, I felt nothing. Not anger. Not love. Just clarity. You didn't see me, I said quietly. She stepped closer. I was wrong. You saw what I didn't have, I interrupted. Not who I was becoming. Tears rolled down her face. I can fix this, she whispered. I shook my head. No, I said. You can't. Because the truth was simple. She didn't leave when things were bad. She left when they were about to change. And that was a choice she had to live with. Months later, the 100 acres transformed. Roads, buildings, life. What was once ignored became the center of attention. And me? I didn't just become successful. I became untouchable. Not because of money, but because I learned something most people never do. Never build for validation. Build in silence, and let the results speak so loudly that the same people who doubted you can't ignore you anymore. As for Marcus, the last I heard, he left the city, quietly. No headlines, no attention, just gone. And Vanessa? She became a lesson, not a memory. So if you're watching this right now, feeling overlooked, undervalued, or underestimated, remember this. The world doesn't reward potential. It rewards execution. So keep going. Keep building. And when your moment comes, don't explain it. Let them watch. Because sometimes the greatest revenge is becoming everything they said you couldn't be.